South Carolina investigators have released heavily redacted police reports in the double murder of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. The high-profile mother and son were both found dead back on June 7th. Not much has been released other than they were shot multiple times and that the guns used were a shotgun and a rifle. A few details were learned when the police report was released. Again, most of those details blacked out.
I think all of us have questions, and the family, I'm sure, has tons of questions. And the thing is a lot of the local news outlets around here have just painted such a picture that it could be a number of reasons.
Well, the Murdaugh family is a prominent legal one in South Carolina. In fact, Paul Murdaugh was awaiting trial, though, in the death of a young woman. She died while on the Murdaugh's crowded boat, which was driven by Paul himself back in 2019. NewsNation host Ashley Banfield joining us with more on this. You've been following this closely to say the least. So make a connection here between the Murdaugh case and then another case that now is back in the headlines and what those things now have to do with each other.
Yeah, Rob, it is weird to say the least, but there was a death, a suspicious death 6 years ago. A young man, 19 years old, found dead in the middle of the road, middle of the night. And for 6 years, his mom couldn't get any answers. But she got a phone call last week. They were asking her about the death of her son and asking her about whether she might have motive to come after the Murdaughs. And she said it was a slap in the face. And now, lo and behold, Rob, SLED, South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, has opened up an investigation into this death from 6 years ago, saying that what they found out about the scene that you're looking at on your screen right now, this double murder of the mom and son, what they found out in this investigation has led them to open a new investigation on the death of the 19-year-old young man in the middle of the road. There's a couple other connections, too. And by the way, when I say a couple, a lot. For starters, Paul Murdaugh, who died in that double murder, has a brother named Buster. Buster and the young man who was killed in the middle of the road were classmates, and Buster's dad, Alec Murdaugh, was their coach. Not only that, Sandy, has said that her husband, who's now dead, had a lawyer in a case he was working on, and that lawyer was Paul Murdaugh's uncle, Randy Murdaugh, and that he was at the scene of the incident in the middle of the road where her son died. And then there's been some very strange behavior by the pathologist in the case who classified this death in the middle of the road as a hit and run, even though the local cops who were investigating it said they didn't agree. They didn't know why. They got into a fight with the pathologist. Even the coroner said, "Why are you calling this a hit and run?" But this mom has waited 6 years for justice, and now she's starting to get it because an investigation's open, and it all has to do with the death of those two people from 2 weeks ago. I know it's complicated, but man, it is really mystifying.
Wow, what a bizarre and tragic twist. Go back to that point about the hit and run. What was the condition of the body that there were serious questions as to whether that was the real cause of death?
Right. So this, like my spidey senses right away, Rob said, are you kidding me? How could you qualify this as a hit and run? Stephen Smith was found in the middle of the road with his head in the center lane and the rest of his body looking as though it was, he was doing a push-up on his knees. The rest of his body was fine, but for a dislocated shoulder and, are you ready for this, defensive wounds on his knuckles. That doesn't scream hit and run to me. There was also a horrible condition. His head was crushed, but what's really key is there was a hole behind his right eye. And when the FBI came in and tried to do some investigating here, they were told by local law enforcement, you can't have his phone. And by the way, no thank you to your offer of doing a rape kit and a gunshot residue test on the boy's body. That's very curious. The FBI went away saying we weren't allowed to continue. And they told Sandy Smith all of this. It made her very, very distressed.
Wow. And real quick before we let you go, just a few seconds left. Sandy, Stephen's mom, said he revealed some kind of secret to her before he died. What do you know about that?
Yeah, this is even maybe perhaps the most curious of all, Rob. Stephen was gay, very openly gay. He'd been on Craigslist before he was killed, and he had said to his mother, he'd revealed to her that he was having a relationship with a member of a prominent family in town. She has her suspicions who it is, but she does not think it's Buster, who was his classmate and his colleague on the field. She doesn't think it was Buster, but she does have her suspicions, and she does think it's someone in the Murdaugh family. The
twists and turns of a gruesome case. Ashley, thank you so much. Appreciate giving us a few minutes tonight. We'll see you coming up in just a few minutes on Banfield.
You bet, Rob.